Hello, welcome to Access. I'm Rob. Joining us is Hollie.
Hello.
Hollie, you have recently been on a very fun trip that I was very jealous of to San Francisco.
I was.
To see Spyro Reignited Trilogy.
Yes.
And you have come back with your notebook full of notes in traditional Hollie style.
Oh, yes.
And you're going to take us through 10 things that we did not know about the Spyro Reignited Trilogy.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, there's always one person in the comments like, well, I knew all of them. Well, just, let's try and find something we didn't know.
But I know all of them.
But yeah, you probably do. Well, number one is actually, while Insomniac aren't officially involved, Toys for Bob actually went to them for their blessing before even starting to make the game.
I didn't know that. And I'm imagining this as sort of like, them kneeling down.
Oh.
They got the holy Spyro water dabbed over them by Insomniac. You may make this game.
We give you our permission. They did ask them for feedback, and while they were really, really happy with everything, they said there's one really important thing, and it's Spyro's eyes. So his eyes have to be a certain proportion to his head, and his pupils must never float.
Okay.
Inside the eye white. They must always sort of be like around the edge of the eye. Otherwise, apparently he looks a little bit crazy.
Okay. I can see that. I'm just imagining now, yeah. Crazy eye Spyro.
So point number two is, despite them having the concept art for this, Sparks, the little dragonfly?
Yes.
He's your health meter.
Yes.
Well, in the concept art, he's always had arms, but never in the game. Until now.
I did not know this
He
either.
finally has arms in game, and now he doesn't just change colour. He still changes colour to obviously signify how much health you've lost.
Yeah.
But now, his body posture will change.
Oh,
and
no.
he'll be all sad.
Sad Sparks.
Yeah, because they can finally show it.
Do dragonflies have arms?
They do in this game now.
Right.
They do now, Rob. The artist just felt that they could better convey emotion with Sparks if he was able to use hands. And yeah, you'll notice the little animation screen when you go idle, Sparks will fly up to a screen and give you a thumbs up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Number three, in the original concept art that Toys for Bob created, the dragons were actually themed around celebrities.
This is amazing.
So for the artisans, for example, we saw concept art for an Andy Warhol dragon.
I don't actually know what Andy Warhol looks like.
It looks cool. A David Bowie dragon.
Oh.
And the best one of all, a Bob Ross dragon.
This is... And so this hasn't made it into the final game, though,
No,
sadly.
for I think understandable yet slightly complicated legal reasons, that idea was dropped.
But they all have unique personalities now, though, isn't it? That's one of the cool things about the dragons you save in the Reignited Trilogy. They're not just recoloured models of the same dragon they used to be. Now you have an artist dragon. I imagine, Andy Warhol dragon has now just become artist dragon.
A little bit. I'm sure they've absorbed it, but they were really clear artists. And in fact, you've led me on to point number 4.
Right.
Was that we know in the original game, I think there were only 4 different dragon type models.
Yeah.
Now we know that in the actual trilogy, when it launches, there's a different model for every single dragon.
Yeah.
But there wasn't going to be originally. They were just going to sort of build mix and match pieces.
I see.
Maybe 4 different body types and 5 different heads and sort of switch them around.
Yeah.
But as they were developing the game, they just felt that just wasn't enough. So the art team actually decided to just one day sit down and be like, we're going to make lots more work for ourselves and actually create all the dragons separately.
It's worth it though, isn't it? Because I love the unique personality that they've all got now. You get a sense of excitement builds when you come to free a dragon.
Yeah, because what's he going to look like? What's he going to talk like? What sort of, is he going to be props? And we saw the concept art for all of these. It was amazing.
Thank you for releasing me.
Now, since the original game code doesn't exist, so Toys for Bob don't have the original code for the game to work with.
Are we on 0.5 now?
Yes. So they built something called Spyro Scope. Now, I have mentioned this before on the channel, but it's basically a program that would run alongside a PS1 emulator while they were playing the original Spyro games and extract the game data for them to literally drop into their version of the game.
This is genius.
So, for example, the Spyro Scope would tell you the exact height Spyro would be on the 3rd frame of a jump.
This is amazing.
It's exact.
The Spyro Scope sounds like a gadget you would get in an
Insomniac
sound like
game,
gadget, doesn't it?
Yeah. It'll probably appear as an Easter egg now. But for example, the little thief characters, they run away and you have to chase them. Well, they showed us the Spyro Scope capturing that. So from the emulator on one side and then in their game. So it would capture how fast he was, his route, when he would stop, what distance he had to be from you at any one time. And they literally just copied that and pasted it into the final game.
So they've somehow, despite not having the original source code, been able to almost pixel for pixel rebuild the original game.
Yeah, which is interesting, because when we first started showing Spyro footage on the channel, people were like, "Oh, it doesn't look right. He's too fast. He's jumping too long." And it's like, actually, he's not.
No.
They've Spyro Scoped it. Which leads me on to the next point. Because there's no original game code, the art team had to manually play the game and then write down every asset they spotted that they would then have to recreate.
Oh, man.
Because there's no list to work from. So there's no anything, so they had to physically write it down themselves.
Every tree, every
crate, rock.
I mean, they've also added new stuff as well, isn't it? There's more detail, like they've now got grass, for instance.
Yeah, I know, it sounds so silly.
Individual blades of grass are now in Spyro, whereas before it was just like a flat green texture.
But yeah, they had to literally go through the game and write it all down. And for one example, they were on the Spyro subreddit, and a Spyro fan, there's a little, maybe an Easter egg, it's a little fairy holding a sign that just says punk.
Right.
And it's a bit hidden. I think it's in one of the underwater levels, but someone will correct me. And they sort of said, I really hope this Easter egg makes it into the game. And the art team were like, we never found this fairy. Where is this fairy? Quickly go find the fairy.
Amazing.
So they went to go find it, then quickly added it to the list, rendered it, blocked it in game. So it's all like, lots of manual work involved.
I love the thought of the developers just skulking about the dark depths of Spyro Reddit.
They really do. Toys for Bob take this super seriously. So moving on to the soundtrack. So the original soundtrack is static, which means the music doesn't change at any point. The track just plays. So the new game, the soundtrack is dynamic. And by the way, if you don't like this, not only can you revert to the original soundtrack in the menu, you can actually turn the dynamic off and still have the new soundtrack if that's what you want.
That's cool.
So it's up to you. But because it's dynamic, this means there are 4 versions of any track playing any one time.
This is cool.
And they fade in and out depending on what you're doing. So you've got the bass version.
Yeah.
This is the track that just plays. Then if you go idle, a more ambient, more stripped out version will fade in and the bass will fade out.
Yeah.
And then if you start charging around, the lovely super fast, best way to maneuver the world.
Yeah.
That will apply a more rhythmic, high energy version of the track, and the bass will fade out.
I love this. So we've been seeing this quite a lot in games as well recently.
Yeah.
Spider-Man comes to mind as the music starts swelling and getting epic as you swing through the city.
Exactly.
And it's just it just adds that extra level of immersion, doesn't it?
Well, the fourth one for this
matching what you're doing.
is ambient.
Yeah.
If you go inside, it becomes ambient. So it's like I said, you'd run into a cave and then it's got like an echo to it.
Oh, that is cool.
But yeah, that's the dynamic music they've asked.
But it's good that they've given you the choice as well. So if you just want it how it used to be, you can have it like that if you want.
Yeah, and again, since the original files don't exist, they only have final recordings. So for example, you can't see the layered files to track down like what made this sound, like what instrument was that. So the team at Toys for Bob actually contacted the original composer Stuart Copeland and Insomniac to try and help them track it down, and all they could give them was a list of the really old music libraries they had used. So they had sign up to all these old libraries to try and find all these really weird exotic instruments.
Wow.
And there are times where they couldn't figure it out and they had to try and replicate it. So for example, there's some very, very weird bassy vocals in Magma Cove.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the original file to use. They didn't know who even sang it. So they actually got one of the VO artists who was in that day to do some Dragon VO.
Nice.
To recreate the Magma Cove vocals, which you'll hear when you play the final game.
It sounds like this game has been lovingly crafted. Painstakingly crafted, but lovingly crafted.
It's hard to explain just how enthused Toys for Bob are. Like when you get there, they're like, all of them like big kids running around wide-eyed, sparkles in the eyes. Like, they are so proud of what they've created, and they're so #blessed to be working on Spyro. They take it serious. So number 9, the game does actually feature one brand new piece of music.
Okay.
They actually got the original composer back. Stuart Copeland came back.
That is cool.
And he did the title music. So when the game boots up, you're going to pick which one of the 3 games you want to play. That is the new piece of music. And it's influenced, it's sort of a mashup of all 3 of the title themes come together to create the Reignited Trilogy theme.
I didn't know any of these things you're telling me, Holly, and everything you're telling me is just making me even more excited for the game.
Well, I think you'll like this last one then. Number 10 is a bit of a bonus one because it's not just about the Reignited Trilogy. It's about something that's affected all of Spyro. So most Spyro fans will know that the original code name for Spyro was Project Pete. You know that?
I didn't know that, no. There's another thing. Is that like a little bonus 11th thing that I didn't know?
Toys for Bob gave us the original design docs for the first 3 games.
Right.
The actual folders with all the handwritten notes and like the blueprint paper where they had mapped out the like the levels in like pencil.
Yeah.
And when we were reading through them, this is from the very first original one, before it was called Project Pete, it was actually just titled Dragon Game. And Spyro was a short-range first-person shooter. Like a tank-based shooter.
Amazing.
You played as a tank, but it was like a dragon, and you used fire to shoot things.
Right.
But one thing that did stick was one of the original concepts was that you had to collect treasure to progress through the levels. And that actually stuck to the final Spyro games, where you have to collect the gems in the world, either to unlock gates or to unlock abilities to unlock new worlds. That actually stayed throughout the entire trilogy, unlike the idea of Spyro being a first-person shooter.
That is an amazing piece of trivia, Holly.
Isn't that great? It was there in the design doc, handwritten and then crossed out and then rewritten and... Yeah.
You have successfully told me 10 things I did not know.
Yeah, at least that's one person. I'm sure someone in the comments knows them all.
Well, Holly, thank you very much for finding out all of this amazing information. We're going to have, obviously, more on the channel for Spyro Reignited Trilogy as we near release, which is coming up very soon. Please let us know in the comments if you're excited for the game, and tell us if you knew any of these things. I didn't know any of them, personally.
Good.
So if you did know them, well done you. And please also hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our videos.
For the players.